Hi and welcome back to the third part of this tutorial. Here you can see what we created already in the first parts. Yeah, we made here this basic animation where this text jumps here in this pipe, and also at the end it nicely slows down. And the only thing that is still missing are the tricks that the text does at the end of or that it does when it jumps. And the problem with this is that, yeah, you have a lot of keyframes here, and of course it's tedious to change each of these keyframes separately. So I give you some ideas and some tricks what you can do to simplify this. So let's say the first thing we want to do is that this first jump here should not be that high. Yeah? That's a rather simple modification, but if you look at all these keyframes here, it could nevertheless be a bit complicated. So what we first can do is to go to Layer and then Add Marker here at the start of the jump, just to make everything a little bit more visible. And then go here to the highest point. That's this one here. Yeah. Go to Layer, Add Marker, or numpad star. And then we go to the end of this region that we want to modify. By the way, instead of clicking here with the mouse all the time, I will rather use my yoke shuttle element. Yeah, so I have here such a device with which I can scroll through the timeline, which makes everything a bit nicer. So I scroll here forward until the end here where the jump stops. And again, click numpad star to set another marker. Now we know we want to modify this area here. Yeah? And what we actually want to modify is the position. Yeah, so we select all of these elements here and click on P for the position. Click a second time, and now we have just the position elements. And what I now do is I set the work area here to the region that I want to modify, and this is because I want to modify it with key tweak. And key tweak looks as follows. So this is this nice tool from World, and it has different options how you can modify keyframes. And one powerful thing is that it can, in the work area, modify the frame where we are currently having our time indicator. Yeah, so I can, for example, modify here this highest point, and then fade this change in and out over time, so such that I do not have to change these neighboring keyframes, yeah, but that they are changed according automatically. Now I can change this move a bit. Yeah, I can, for example, say, okay, I want this T here, so I select the position of the T. I want to move it a bit to the left, maybe not 50 pixels, but a bit less, so say 20. Oh, this was the other T. Actually, I didn't want to move this. Edit, undo. So this T here, the position, can be moved like this, and then let's say I also want to move the U like this, and maybe even a bit more like this, and then I want to move this third T here also a bit like this, and then the S rather in the opposite direction. I just wanted to make a stylish move somehow. So, and this one, it's not visible anymore here, but I even want to go it further in this direction. And if we now look at what has happened, it's that it jumps up, and during this jump you have this nice deformation. Yeah, and all these keyframes have been modified at once without the need to touch each of them individually. And you could maybe ask why I do not simply delete all the keyframes here in between and only maintain the middle one, but then you really have the problem that it's not moving that organically up and down anymore. Yeah, it's like a very this physics simulation calculated very precisely and organic how high to fly at each point. And if you just remove these keyframes, you get a very simple, basic constant speed movement up and down, which really looks not very realistic. Yeah, so therefore it's really important to maintain these keyframes. This is not the case for rotation. Yeah, for rotation here, basically in this entire time period, nothing changes. So therefore, if I want to modify the rotation now, so I clicked R to reveal the rotation keyframes, nothing bad happens if we just delete here these rotation keyframes in between. maybe even these ones and these. Yeah. So, oh, you see one bad thing happens, and this is that this T here is doing one complete turn. This is because here at the middle it somehow seems to swap. So maybe let's just delete the middle keyframe too. Now you can see nothing bad happens here, but here at the middle you can now adjust the rotation. So I want this to rotate a bit to look nicer. Maybe like this, and this U should rotate like this. And the last one like this, yeah, that it really looks like during the jump it nicely deforms. Yeah, so let's take a look at a RAM preview of this. Okay, looks very nice. And so let's go on to the second jump at this point where it should do a full loop. Yeah. So again, let me quickly mark the beginning and the end of this jump. So here around here the jump should start. So I again set a marker. This is not really necessary for key tweak or something like this. Oh, I set it on this layer. I didn't want this. I go to undo and set it again here on this first layer. Like this. And then I go to the highest point. Yep, this is the highest point. Set again a marker. And go again to the point where everything should be finished. Around here. Yeah. Okay, then I again set my work area to this. And the point now is that we want to make we want during the jump to make the text a full loop, so we want to rotate it, and such that this rotation looks good. I want all letters here to come close together. Yeah, if you think of a real skateboarder who wants to do such a looping, he really must contract everything, get as small as possible, so focus everything at the middle of his, so at the center of his weight, to be able to rotate quickly. And this is something you also want to do here. So again, I select here all elements, positions, and now move them towards the middle, so to this T. So the first T should move downwards, like this. And remember, we are at the highest point, yeah, and everything before and after within the work area changes accordingly. And then this U also moves down a bit. This was maybe a bit much. Maybe let's change this here to 5. Then we can do with this one here fine-tunings. Yeah. So there is no technical difference between these arrows and these here, except that you can, yeah, change these numbers here to different values, which is then quite nice. And we can do with this big changes and with this one smaller changes. Okay, this T is in the middle, this stays where it is. And now this S here, the S position should move up. Like this. And the plus position should also move up. Like this. So now you can see at the highest point everything comes close together. Yeah? And again, see the smooth transition you get from here to here. So let's take a look at a RAM preview of this. Yeah, you can see it nicely, yeah, seems to get closer to the center here, everything. And now we in addition need to add the rotation. And we do not want to rotate each of the layers separately because they should all rotate around the same point. So we need to parent them to another layer. So we go to Layer, New, Null Object, and call this here Rotator null, because this takes care of our rotation. And we take now all these layers and parent them to this rotator null. And then here at the beginning of our rotation here, it should R for rotation have a rotation of 0. And at the end, it should have a rotation of 1 full rotation. Like this. So let's take a look at how this is looking like. Not good at all, because it is rotating around the wrong point, of course. Yeah. So the point that we wanted to rotate around is the center of this TUTS layer at the highest point. So I take here this pen behind tool, which is able to move this anchor point, this rotation point, and it should rotate, yeah, around this point here. And you can see this is not yet perfect. So in principle, what you could do is animate this rotation point over time, but I think most of it will already disappear when we do here some easy easing. So I go to, let's do it here, then you can see it, animation, keyframe assistant, easy ease out for the start, because it should slowly start. And then we go here to this last keyframe, rotation keyframe, and go to animation, keyframe assistant, easy ease in. So let's see how this is looking like. Already quite nice. Now we just need to experiment a bit with this rotation point. Yeah. So maybe we should still move it a bit lower, like this. No. This is really just a bit generate and test here. So this looks already quite nice. Maybe even further up. And of course also a bit to the right, yeah, because it should rotate at the center and not at the bottom of these elements here. So this looks pretty convincing. Maybe let's try to move it even further up. Yeah, this is what we need. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a RAM preview of this. And now you have a nice looping here. Okay, so now we have already two cool effects here. Yeah. So here we have this cool deformation, and here we have now this loop. And now the third trick that we want to add here is at this point, it should look as if the skateboarder would kick on the tail of the board and make kind of a cool jump. And for this, let me first again mark the beginning and the end of this area. So like here it should start. I set a marker here, and then it flies, and the highest point is around here. So another mark, and then it lands around here. And so since we need want to have a jump here, I want to get rid first of all position keyframes in that region. So I select here everything in that region, delete it, and the last point, so this is the last keyframe that should be preserved, and the ones before should all be deleted. Like this, yeah. So what we now have is that the logo arrives here, then it stays here as it is, and then goes down again. And now we want it to rotate around this end position here. Yeah. So before, remember for the loop, we rotated around this position using this rotator null. And now what we do is we set for the position and anchor point, P and A, here a keyframe right before our rotation, then go one frame further and move this rotation point to the corner here. Let me just move in here a bit to exactly this corner using this pen behind tool. So now we can rotate around this point. Yeah. So So maybe we move it like this. Okay, this means from here to here, no rotation happens, but the rotation point jumps from this previous rotation point to this one here. And here we can rotate now again. So this means we set here a rotation keyframe and then go a few frames further, like maybe here, and say now it should rotate upwards like this, yeah, as if the skateboarder would have kicked the tail. And then after a while, namely here, when the original movement continues, yeah, it should have been rotated back. So here we go back to the original rotation of exactly one rotation like this. Yeah? So what we have so far is it goes here, then makes this kick and comes back. And if we look at it, it can look more natural if we give it some easy ease, I guess. So here it comes, and now we have here this kick, and you can see it is somehow, the kick is fast and then it goes back a little bit different. So let me just make all this a bit more organic, and to these 3 keyframes, you cannot see it here, so let me do it differently. Select these 3 keyframes and go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, and then Easy Ease, like this. And if we now take a look, it looks quite organic already in the sense that pop, we have this pop and this kick at the end, and then it enters back the half pipe. The only thing that is missing is the jump. Yeah? Somehow when it kicks the tail, when it rotates, it should also make a little jump here. And of course this jump doesn't exist anymore because we've deleted all these position keyframes here in between. And of course we could try now to keyframe also such a jump up, but it won't look very organic, very realistic if we try it by hand. So what we need for this is another iExpression, and you've seen already the throw iExpression from the end of the project where we make here these AE elements fall down, yeah, and instead of make something just fall down, we can also throw something up and let it fall down again. And this is exactly what we want to do at this position with all this text. Yeah, so we want all of this, so this entire text here be thrown up a bit and fall down again. And to this, we create again a new null object because I like to keep all these things separated. So I go to Layer, New Null Object, and call this here Jump Null. And then we just parent the rotator null here to the jump null. So now we have here this element, and I can go to its position. And when we move it up and down, this entire logo with everything just moves up and down. Yeah, I undo, Control Z. And now I want to control with such a iExpression to have here a little jump. Let me first zoom in here again to the range that was interesting for us. So at this point here, we want to have our jump. And now let's go to iExpressions, and we see we have here still this throw to the open from the last time. Yeah, you can otherwise find it here in the library. So library, physics simulation, real-time throw 2D. Okay, now it's back at its default settings. And first thing again was we need to specify the ground height. Yeah, in this special case, here the original position where it started from is the ground height. Yeah, this is the point where this jump should start and land again. So this is for this null actually 360. So we enter here 360 and apply this to the element. And so you can see now it is red, but nothing is happening. Yes, still no jump because we haven't set it so we haven't moved it in any direction. Currently it is just lying on the ground and nothing is happening. And now we need some keyframe. So we set here keyframes, say here the jump should start. And now I go just one frame further and move it up a bit. Yeah, from 360 to let's say 320 or so. Now we have a little jump animated. Yeah, just these 2 keyframes. And now you can see how this is looking like. We have here our kick, our throw, And you can see maybe this is a bit early. Yeah, it looks like now it is thrown, but it kicks. But the tail that should really cause the jump, yeah, when the element kicks on the tail, just happens later. So it seems like we need to modify our timing here. Let's just look at a quick RAM preview. This doesn't look realistic yet. Somehow this throw comes too early. So just, it should start rather afterwards when, let's move these over here. Just so that you can see what is happening. So at this point, the rotation is happening. And now, once it is rotated in that way, this rotation should give this kick. Yeah, so from here on, it should now move upwards and is thrown in this direction. And from now on, the continuation of this is now done by the throw. Yeah, you can see here the kick, and then it falls down. Looks already a bit better, but it seems like it is not yet jumping high enough, because when it is landing, it is not directly returning again to into the pipe. Yeah, it looks like here it is flying, and now it is landing, and now it takes a few frames until, so it should rather land here and not here already. This means we need to kick it a bit higher. So we go here to this second keyframe and go here from 324 to something higher. Like this. Let's see how this is looking. Now the jump is quite high. And there is another thing, and this is currently, this jump is very bouncy. Yeah, you can, if you look at this element here, you see we just have one jump, and now we have a second jump. Here, yeah, first jump, second jump. Once again, here with the timeline. First jump and then second jump. This is because it has an elastic bounce, and of course it should have no elastic bounce in this case at all, because we want just one jump. Yeah, so we set this here to 0 and again apply. So let's see how this is looking like. It comes, makes this one jump. You can see how this layer here is jumping with it. So another time. Now here comes this jump. Very cool. And now it's entering again the pipe. Yeah. Maybe this is really a bit too high, but really look how organic it is looking like. Yeah. So this is really because this throw is based now again on real physics, or this jump actually. Yeah. Here you can see the null object that does a simulation, and here how the skateboard thing is following it. Very nice. But nevertheless, let's try to make it a little bit less high. So again, select here the second keyframe that controls the jump, and let's go back to maybe 270 or so. Still quite high. Oh, of course we need to go lower. Like this. I think this is a height that I like. Yeah, so it comes here, makes this jump, and lands again in the pipe. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, my name is Matthias, and I hope I see you in the next tutorial again.